It may take a little bit while because travel and all that, but within a month we'll send you the collected thing. I prefer to do it after the global summit session because then you will get the benefit of that which was done by that will be typically 400-500 people in the audience each session at the global summit. So we'll do it after that session is done, but just take a note and send us an email there. So Deepa, this is yours.
Yeah, so we'll quickly run through the most important points that we discussed. As we know, when we saw that these four chemicals don't work in silo and they work with each other, although they have a very, very distinct effect, positive and negative, but they work with each other. So there is the harmony that needs to be maintained, and this is important, like I said, along with the other thousands of hormones that are present. And then what we need to know is also something like there is a positive and negative feedback mechanism. So if a hormone keeps on increasing and the end organs get too much of that hormone, the end organs send a feedback to your brain and say, enough, I think I'm getting too much of it. So then the brain stops. Sometimes, because of a disease, when this feedback mechanism does not work, then obviously you have a lot of disharmony. So this is when, like we said in the earlier slide, proactivity is very important to understand what should be done, what is going wrong in the orchestra, that is going to be done. And like what we saw in cortisol, chronic stress conditions, whether it is you, whether it is your team, whether it is your family, whether it is environment, that is definitely a clear-cut signal for an imbalance in the orchestra. Because all four, all six, all thousands of hormones will go for toss. Now, most importantly, realize there is no quantitative estimation. You can't say that today morning I'm going to test my serotonin. That was a very good question. Just check, but you can't go and say, let me check what is my serotonin level and is this the optimal level. That doesn't happen. You get hormonal assays. Obviously, there are different types of assays for different reasons, but for leadership or for this, you don't have any estimation that any lab does. What is important is how do we feel internally. That itself is a test. Now, we said we are going to tie it all back to the power skills. Do you remember that fourth, fifth slide? What we want to show you here is, suppose you take leadership as a primary power skill. Then the first important hormone is cortisol, followed by oxytocin. These are the two primary hormones that help you in that particular power skill. So if you see that there is not one single hormone because there are two, both are working in tandem. If you take emotional intelligence, it is oxytocin and serotonin. If you take problem solving, it is dopamine, cortisol. Psychological safety, dopamine, oxytocin. So remember this, that there is not one single hormone. You never find cortisol everywhere. So it is important that all the hormones are together and work. What is the outcome? Improved employee morale helps in increased project success rates. Employees feel good. Basically, they feel valued. And when an employee and when our team members feel valued, obviously, the resignation is less. It improves your engagement and overall your leadership as a success.
So this book I referred to earlier, Simon Sinek is an amazing author on leadership. He's written a book also called Start with Why. Begin with the end in mind. What is the objective? That question is important. So Leaders E-Class deals a lot with these chemicals, right? This book I've been reading, Habits of a Happy Brain, right? Then there's a book called Overloaded. How every aspect of your life is influenced by your brain chemicals. Because in a 60-75 minute session, we can only cover so much. So if this is something that interests you, these are some books, and I'm not an Amazon salesman, I'm not giving a referral code where a data comes, right? Our own book, Say Yes to Project Success, has several chapters on leadership. Some of these, for example, the 360-degree circle, complimenting continuously. There are several other things in that book. And then there is another book called The Molecule of Hope. So if you want to take a picture, and Madan, maybe I'll take a picture of this slide. We can post it on the Chennai Facebook page. So this also you can take, rather than giving URLs, this is a suggestion that came from a friend. They said give QR codes. So reports on the effects of the Europe war, analytics workplace or work from home survey. A lot of this are based on the leadership being the number one skill. A lot of that we've actually given stuff on work from home, productivity, just a few which we felt won't be useful. So we will take Q&A. So Madan, I only told him now because otherwise I don't want him to negotiate. He will decide which is the best question out of 4 or 5, and that best question will get a signed copy of our book. So go ahead with your questions. I had a hand going up there first, the lady there. We'll come back to Dinesh. By the way, Deepa is my boss on the ethics team, so she's the chair of the ethics insight team. I work with her. Go ahead.
Thank you for
your name, please.
Hemavati. So the problem which I'm going to explain now, most of the parents would definitely undergo. So what I feel is, as a project manager, I feel more comfortable managing my project team than managing my daughter. She is a 17-year-old girl, and whenever I ask her to do a simple work, she said, why? Their 5-way analysis starts from there, making her explaining each and everything. Finally, I end up doing the work. So
sometimes they'll say, Google says the opposite of what you're saying.
So
yeah,
this goes like that, and I really want to know what these endorphin, dopamine, oxytocin, all these chemicals, is it really working in her or not because of the I never see her in a happy mood. Whenever somebody reaches, she always have that kind of irritation, annoying kind of a mindset. So I really don't know how to make her come out of it. If I take her to a pleasuring zones like bungee jumping, zoo, all that moment I could see her very happy. The moment she enters the house, she go back to the same nest, same kind of a behavior. So I don't know how to come out of this problem.
Just as a joke, we'll also give you one of these smiley stickers.
I'll give you one full sheet. I'll give you one full sheet.
I know this is not a parenting counseling session, but whatever way you can.
Just a small suggestion. First of all, your question is very relevant, very contemporary. I'm sure all of us understand that. And at some point of time,
Basic.
He'll
understand it when he's a parent.
But just remember from a medical standpoint, see, these 4 hormones are playing in her as they are playing in all. Whereas because of her age, which is a pubertal age, these hormones are going up and down. They don't have a static phase, right? So she's obviously going through a lot of that. So she's not able to settle there. It will take some time for her to understand which phase, where does she feel good, how does she feel good, and that is the time she'll settle. So you still are likely to have some part of this. Only thing is your cortisol is going up. So
Deepa reminds me of a man who went to an astrologer. Right? The guy said you're having some deep problem. Otherwise, why do you go to an astrologer? So he said, yeah, the time is a little bad. 6 months, just be patient. After that, next person.
What's the final solution for this? She will continue to be
no, she won't continue. She will have some of these ups and downs. Just that she takes a little bit of time to settle. You just need to be more settled with your cortisol. That's what I'm saying. You just need to find out the right spot.
So we'll come to Dinesh next. There was 2 hands raised there. First, then we'll come to Dinesh, then we'll come to you.
I have 2 questions.
We'll just finish with you.
Yeah, there is something called as dopamine addiction, right? Okay, so how not to fall into that? Okay, that is one question. And second thing is everything natural is good, right? But as you said, dopamine cannot be artificially given. Okay, so my question is so when we go for the artificial injection, actually, I somewhere the treatment for that, like for serotonin or something, they give artificially, right? So when we know we reach that condition where artificially they give, actually. Okay, that is second question. Yeah.
Okay, let me answer your question. Dopamine can be given, but it is given to save life. Dopamine is given, we give dopamine drip to a small child who is gasping and who may not even live for the next 5 minutes. But that dopamine does not have an impact of what we are talking about. Because remember, the hormone has a primary action, it goes and tries to act on the priority level. All the other actions that we just talked about are a hormone quadlet. This is what we're talking about an orchestra. So that dopamine, even if you give us a drip, will never ever have an action on what is felt like as well-being. It is there to save that person's life. Artificial drugs, artificially available so-called chemicals which you want to give will never have the effect of what we discussed. So you can't give an artificial serotonin, you can't give an artificial cortisol. So the first question you said is dopamine addiction. So you cannot have dopamine because dopamine can't continuously be secreted, right? It will secrete and it will stop. Only thing is your body will want to have more on the next day. It can't continuously go on a high. So you will never ever fall in that trap. But if you feel that
we fall into some habits which gives lot of dopamine, right? Like
correct,
watching
but those are
movies,
good, right?
ice creams, we go on doing it, right? Sometimes.
Correct, that's what I'm trying to say. So that because you feel good, you want to do that activity. What is important is what type of activities you want it to do. Let it not be an activity which just gives you a high and it just makes you do that activity. What is important from a leadership standpoint is understand the trigger that is creating that dopamine. Maybe that particular team member wants to write an article and it gets published in a magazine. Every month let him write. That is important.
So one session that we'll have Dinesh next, Benedict Nyanaya, who spoke at Sangamam 22 this time, did a session in 2011 at the same Hotel Savera. His session was titled Black Forest, Beer, Book. So he was saying if people are given a choice of a slice of Black Forest cake, a glass of beer or a book, 95% of people choose that Black Forest cake because it gives immediate pleasure. Beer, maybe it is bitter, but it gives a kick after a little while. Nowhere near Black Forest. Reading a book, how many of you read books? Regularly? Wonderful, right? Book doesn't give you immediate pleasure unless it's like Chetan Bhagat or some racy novel or whatever. A self-improvement book, does it give you immediate pleasure?
No.
No. But that is what gives us lasting elasticity in the brain. That what
It's an experience.
but it's not something, so only 1% of people actually choose the book when given these three choices. So ultimately it's also about some discipline ourselves. Yes, dopamine addiction is dangerous and that's something we need to tackle. Dinesh?
See, my question is regarding the impact of these four chemicals on this recent great resignation we have seen in the last 1 year, and as an afterthought, the quiet resignation, which is a big trend now in the IT industry. The challenge we have as leaders is, while there's a resistance of people to come back to work, a lot of activities that we envisage from team bonding, employee engagement happens when there is a physical connect. But with most of the employees sitting elsewhere, getting influenced by other factors, how do you really ensure that you control this resignation? Obviously, increasing salary promotions is not the solution. But what else can we do to really stem this great resignation or to really bond better with people who are not necessarily physically present in the office?
Correct.
Handling motivation of people who are not actually in the office, right? So some of these appreciation circles, Dinesh, we do also around. One of those other things we try to do is once in 15 days, 20 days. Deepa spoke about somebody writing a blog, right? Invariably, there are people in the team with special skills outside of work. Somebody may be a food blogger, somebody may be a photography thing, somebody does dance, that is their passion. Once in a month or twice a month, we invite those people to share with the team, 5 minutes to 10 minutes, what they learned from their hobby that can help the project or the team. Some skills, something that they did, right? So sometimes as somebody with 12,000 Twitter followers, I do a session with our team on how to increase Twitter followers organically and all that. So sometimes people will be shy, they don't want to speak in front of the team, but one thing, between Deepa and I, we exceeded this session, though we had planning, tracking, all of that. We exceeded this session. One, because there was a lot of, the other reason is because we are passionate about it. You ask somebody to talk about their kids, they'll talk for hours. Right? The kid may not like it. Why are you praising me in front of others? I'm not pointing my finger at you, Rahul, but by saying that I pointed my finger at it. But when you find some area of passion, even people who are shy will come up. Other people are going to appreciate them for their work. And even remotely you can appreciate work. I'd start a meeting normally with the first 2-3 minutes saying that so-and-so son won this, or so-and-so contributed this. I mean, first 3-4 minutes will be about achievements within the team and of individuals, right? So this moves that kind of a thing, and I also, proactive is important. I'll keep looking for people who seem to be down. I'll have one-on-ones with them, even virtually, and I'll try to find out what is happening. Sometimes people will be open, sometimes they will not. But it is up to the leader. You can't say, he didn't tell me, so I couldn't do it. I didn't notice body language. It is up to you, right? One bad apple, one badly motivated person can affect the entire team. So it is up to us. We may not always succeed, but we have to take the effort. When we do that, we reduce failures. I'm not saying we'll succeed every time. I hope that answered your question.
One point to add.
There are lots of hands going up, but there's only one question left.
Just one point to add. See, if you look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right from starting from air, food and water to self-actualization, now there is a need, and I was just reading about it, need to redefine that. Because what really caused dopamine secretion when air, food and water, is for somebody is at self-actualization, right? Now with people sitting at home, what is their important when their careers or their colleagues come to the office and they share things and they say that I felt so good, then naturally this person feels like coming to the office, experiencing the same experience that his colleague had. Just that this effect has not yet taken. There has to be a mass effect around it. I hope I just added to one.
So with great resignation also, right? Hesitation to come back to work. There are some people who are dying to go back to work. I am a deep introvert. You may all be surprised. I am a deep introvert. Given the chance to read a book or go to a party, I'll sit and read a book. Right? My wife is extremely extroverted. She prefer to go to a party. Right? Somebody may be extroverted but might have had a very long commute. That may prevent them from going back to work. So it's a mixture of several different factors. As project managers, it is up to us to try and find out what button, it may sound fake, but what drives people, right? And the question also is, if somebody is a very poor performer and refuses to return to work, thank you so much. Right? If somebody is star performer, you can't afford to lose them, then you may make more efforts, right? So he's been asking, so what we will do is we'll take your question offline because of the time. Okay, he already has the mic. Seat ek kaila irke, aarchi ek kaila irke.
My name is Srinivas. The question is, I saw the last slide. There is a matrix, correct? The leadership.
Yeah.
You have a cortisol, and there is a secondary one, correct?
Right.
It's a
Yeah.
towards that question.
Yes.
Okay. So we have a matrix. Okay. So we are in a mid level. When I am saying in a hierarchy, here I have a team to manage, and they have to know the second level. Okay. There are one is timeline wise. We have the cortisol. I am talking about the leadership side and the cortisol side. One is timeline. Achieving a timeline, we are not able to meet because of the various reasons. Work from home. It's one of the reasons. It's not the primary reason. But at the same time, I am trying to compose myself, but at the same time, from my top management, their expectation, I am not able to meet it. Right? How to manage, especially I am talking about the hormone, how to manage the hormone imbalance. Continuously, you are saying, you already told, the cortisol should not be continuously, you should not be in stress. How to manage the stress, or how to reduce cortisol secretion? This is what the question.
I think there is a big answer to this. You can definitely talk to me offline or send an email. But most importantly, it is not about just one cortisol hormone. You will have to alternate between the two hormones. So for example, you experience stress when you are talking to your manager, obviously because you know that your downlines have not met a deadline or whatever, there is a pressure. But at the same time, you want to give a pressure to your downlines because otherwise they will not meet. Right? So there is this continuous up and down that you are looking at. But you also should substitute with a bout of oxytocin and other hormones so that they perform. Because they are putting a cortisol on you and you are putting a cortisol on them, nothing is happening. So you will have to ensure that at some point you break this and say that fine, I mean next 2 weeks set that expectation and shoot on the oxytocin so that they improve. And that will reduce your cortisol and then they see a value. What I'm trying to say is not as easy as what I'm trying to tell you. It's something that you need to make as alternating. If you see the antibody levels, they go up and they fall down. Multiple parabolas keep happening instead of one plateau like this.
And nowadays there are wearables which based on your sweat, analysis of your sweat, there are wearables that can judge your mood and tell you, this is what you've seen coming on my screen, time to look away, time to take a break, all of that. It's a simple app, it's a very rudimentary app. But there are wearables which judge your mood and will tell you now, your Android will tell you spent so much of screen time today. Sometimes it will allow you to force it to shut it down. Right? So we may not like it, but things are moving in that direction.
So too much conflict.
Even if you are shutting down
so
also,
better
your
go.
mood,
One
right?
of you.
It is continuing.
Correct.
That's
But
my point.
no, you are right. That's fine. You are supposed to shut it. But that is the time now with this change, and that's why we talked about disruption. We can't continue to have the linear mode of project theory that we always had. We need to disrupt that as well and try to think about people, half the number of people sitting at home, half of them sitting in different geographies and different time zones. And that is why the entire theory of project management is also trying to see what is the complexity, what are the facts and what are the perceptions. So from a hormone standpoint, what we are trying to, it's not going to be a linear plateau with both hormones going up and down. You will have to create multiple activities which at some time cortisol peaks up. It's okay, it will allow the team to deliver. But immediately substitute it with another activity. And that is important for as details for us. And same for your manager to allow you to have an oxytocin bond. You can't be always under cortisol.
Ask them to connect to us on LinkedIn.
Okay, thank you for the question. The last question.
Thank you very much, Karthik. My question is to both of you. See, being a medical doctor who understands project management, and Karthik, you being a very successful project manager. Now, my question is absolutely practical related. As Karthik said, the survey shows 81% of the for the success of a project is leadership. Leadership also depends solely on the decision he or she takes as project manager. If that decision is based on certain facts, that fact can be a fact or perception. I'll come to these two, facts and perception. Let us say he or she has taken decision and acted. If that decision was based on fact, the output will be different from if it was based on perception. That is the ground reality. Another ground reality today is, today we all are exposed so much socially, particularly in social media like Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp, and we are not human beings, end of the day. We cannot keep ourselves isolated and mind switched off. We are getting influenced. So there is a distraction which are creating a lot of confusion in our mind. When we look for information, most of us, most of the time, go to the Google and search for information. There is no guarantee the information that I am getting from Google is correct. Whereas the fact is, I would say 90% or more, it is not correct. Very rarely very few of us actually search for the information in Google research. In Google research, it is mostly authenticated. So the information that we are getting is highly questionable, and the influence that we are going through, that is creating a lot of this chemical locha, if I may use that word, in a day and many more. So when I am taking as a project manager decision, and based on that action has to be taken, I'm not sure whether it is based on fact or figure, perception. Now the question is, how do I, as a project manager, insulate myself and take the decision based on fact and not the perception? So I would like to hear both as a doctor and as a project manager. Thank you.
So, this is where there's something called cognitive bias, right? If I have a bias for something, even a perception, even a manufactured fact will appear true to me, right? So, first is to understand oneself. All of this discipline of working for reliable research, reliable sources, all of that is good. But there may be something a reliable research says, but I don't like that, so I will think that is perception, right? So one important thing is to understand what our biases are, and sometimes it can be very painful, right? Sorry to say this, but this fairness creep, women, men, does it mean only fair women are good looking? Unfortunately, it is something that is being spread, and it has caused so much pain to people who may not be like that, right? So sometimes it is societal, that takes a long time to change. So the first step is to understand oneself. Do I have biases? Not be in denial. Yes, I have this bias. Somebody may, I'm not going to go into a political line, but somebody may talk something that the government did. Immediately, oh, you are a Modi bug. Somebody may talk about some silly statement Rahul Gandhi made, right? Once again, you are a Modi bug. Or the other way around, right? Rahul Gandhi might have said something very intelligent at a time. But because you are on one side, you may actually think that is wrong. So the first step really, we can't change society in a day. The first step is to understand to look for reliable information, and then understand what my biases are. So one of the things they say, as we grow older, one of the ways, and Deepa can talk to that, we keep young, is to learn something new. I'm coming to that point, learn a musical instrument, something, learn a new language. And they also say, if you are a Hindu, read the Bible and the Quran. If you are a Muslim, read the Bhagavad Gita. If you are a Christian, do that, because then you understand the other point of view and you are able to look at certain things. It is very uncomfortable to do, but if we have to answer your question, it is something we have to do. So that is what is in your control. The other things are not in your control.
Yeah, and the question was good. I would say for the four hormones, they really doesn't matter. Fact doesn't matter, perception doesn't matter. For them, what matters is how are you reacting and how are they asking you to react. Whether you face a fact and that is a bad fact, or you face a reality which is a not so good reality, really doesn't matter. What is important is when you understand the difference, that is when cortisol will shoot up. When you come to know, oh my God, what decision have I taken? That is the time we learn from our mistakes. So for the four hormones, this fact versus reality versus the perception, it doesn't come in. So as a medical doctor, I would be able to do that. Thank you.
So we are way beyond time. So just to summarize, and this was supposed to be Deepa's slide. How do I say Deepa's slide? Because you would have seen as we moved along, if you are presenting with somebody else, those dots on the top. The blue
and orange
means actually it is pink, but this projector is making it look as red. If both of us handle something, it is two dots. So it makes it very easy for us to know who's handling what. So I know this is Deepa's slide, but since I have the Archie and the... So I'm not going to read this out. So just to say that everything that we had said that we would cover, we've covered. So from a presentation point of view, they say, Toastmasters say, tell them what you're going to tell them. That's the agenda. Tell them which is actually covering it. Tell them what you told them, which is the summary, right? So that way, 3 ways, and then engaging you hopefully help. But I want to tell you, right? A lot of times we attend sessions. Oh, this looks good, this is all that. We go back to work pressures, family pressures, we forget what we look at. So I would highly request some of you, we'll be happiest, right? If you going out or in your car, not when you're driving, but next 15-20 minutes, write down 3-4 things you got from this session that you practically can put to work and put them to work.
Immediately.
Because then PMI session, PMI Chennai benefits, we benefit, all of you benefit, but then again at the end, 1 month down the line, if you send us that email, PMI, whatever that email is, then we will also send you out the whole thing. That will be also from a global audience. So, you want to say it in Marathi? Telugu? Nandri is Tamil.
ధన్యవాదాలు.
Dhanyavadalu. Marathi? Okay. So, as another way of saying thank you, I'm not trying to sell anything. A lot of this we cover in our book. So, for attending our session and all that, we have a few copies, physical copies of our book. If you'd like to get it from us directly with us signed, you can have it for $350. You can also scan this QR code. That will not be an author signed copy, but then you can buy it from the Notion Press store, that QR code, and you use the code PMICC22, that will give you a 33% off. So, if you want to connect to us on LinkedIn, Twitter.
Genuinely thank you for
Thank you so much.
And thank you for attending this. And we really hope that you take back at least 2 to 3 lessons that you can apply immediately.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the session will just be. And please connect back with us. If you have any questions, please send us and we'll reply for sure.
Deepa and I were very clear, we don't want to give 30,000 feet yarn and all of that and storytelling and all of that, which is why we did it, all the group activity and all that. So hopefully we did what we set out to do.
And we know that everything could not be covered. For some answers, it could not be covered just for the lack of time. But we'll be happy if you connect with us on that. We don't want that said.
Thank you,
Thank you so much.
Karthik and Dr. Deepa for